I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, is it legal for me to raise private equity? I probably know if it's legal or not. My question is how to do it legally. I probably know that I can go to certain states and file for tax credits. I know it's legal, right? The question is how do I do it legally, right? 3L, what's your name?
Me.
Yes, you.
Anthony.
Anthony, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Could you point out some legal challenges I might face here?
I mean, just defining what happens in the event of default. Like if something
Definitely.
goes wrong, and you can't pay back your obligations.
Definitely. Okay, anyone else have a suggestion? If I'm raising private equity, I have to worry about the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. I have government regulation that I have to worry about. As an attorney, I'm going to expect you to inform me that I am going to be subject to a ton of regulation. I may not know this regulation, so you're going to be the one who has to tell me. As my attorney, I'm not going to come to you ever, or rarely, and say, hey, is this legal or illegal? I know it's illegal not to pay my employees. What I'm going to ask you is, there's 1.5 million ways to compensate my employees and structure that. It's like a soup. There's no perfect way. So I'm going to come to you as a strategist and say, hey, what's the best way to structure this? How should I compensate my employees? How do I structure a bonus pool? How do I do that? How do I put together a private placement memorandum? Like Anthony said, discloses all the risks. So that when this movie flops, because the producer decided he didn't like it, and the director decided that he didn't like New Mexico, he needs to go shoot this all over again. And now it's $20 million over budget. I don't want to be liable for that. If I decided to tie into this marketing scheme, a nonprofit organization, and do some kind of cause marketing, well, there's regulation that governs the fundraising on behalf of nonprofit organizations. Do I have to register? Do I need a license? And the answer is yes, depending on the state. And it's different. So how does that work? So basically, as an attorney, I need you to be a strategist. I need you to understand my business. I'm going to come to you and talk, if you don't know econ, if you don't know accounting, if you're working with an entrepreneur, he probably will know econ and accounting. He probably will talk to you using the language of economics and accounting, because economics is a language. It's the language of business. If you don't know the difference between net and gross revenues, we're going to have a problem. If you're working with an entrepreneur who doesn't understand econ and accounting, you have a problem. So you should know whether or not he knows this stuff. Okay. Taxes. I know most attorneys that I've met don't think taxes are relevant on their CPAs who do that. But there's an entire legal side of taxes. If you're working with an entrepreneur, you need to understand taxes. Because every agreement that I enter into has tax ramifications. Every single one. And I enter into a ton of them. Every client requires at least one contract, probably many. Every transaction. Depending on how we define those contracts, if you, as an attorney, you're going to need to be able to articulate the flow of capital running in and out. Even if my accountant structures it, even if I have a brilliant CFO, and he lays it out beautifully, it's going to fall on you to define how that works. You're going to have to define the money flow. I may or may not even know how to explain that to you if I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe that's why I hired a CFO, because he knows better than I do. When starting up a business, you can't do it without an attorney. It's just nearly impossible. There's so much. I mean, I'm dealing with intellectual property. How do I handle that? Do I need to trademark my name? Well, I have a little cool logo. Do I need to trademark that too? Or just the name? Or if I trademark the really cool logo and my name's in the logo, do I still need to trademark just the name? What do I do with all the intellectual property that I have? Do I need to create a holding company for it? When do I need to create a holding company? You need to be well versed in the various types of legal entities. They say in California, if your attorney tells you to incorporate, when you can form an LLC, you should sue them for malpractice. Because an LLC has all the benefits, pretty much, of a corporation. Unless any licenses, then an LLC can't have. So as my counsel, I'm going to come to you to explain that to me. When should I form a partnership? What are the benefits of a partnership? And then again, there's tax ramifications as well. Maybe the LLC is taxed differently. My California LLC, do I want to tax it as an individual, or do I want to tax it as a corporation? I'm going to come to you with those questions, because you're the one forming my LLC. I'm going to have interns, I'm going to have employees. Let's say I want to pay an employee with equity. How much equity do I pay these employees? Let's say we want to start a company, right? All right, so I'll give you 5%, then I'll give you, what, 5% too? Give you 3%. Maybe I like your shirt, I'll give him 2%. Does that make any sense? How do we decide who gets equity? What is equity? Equity is the right to future revenues, to future cash flow. What does that mean? If someone's working for equity, do I have to pay them? What type of agreement do I have to have? How is equity different than debt? What if I just owe you money? Debt's an obligation. It's not rights to future revenues. So how do we deal with all that? As my counsel, I'm going to come to you with all these questions. And I'm going to need you to answer them for me. Because guess what? With equity, everyone wants it. Even when it's a bad idea. It could be the worst idea in the world, and everyone wants equity in the worst idea in the world. And then when it's a good idea, everyone definitely wants equity. Counsel, protect me. Everyone wants a piece of it. How do I protect myself? I'm going to come to you with these questions, because I might not know the answer. I never went to law school. I'm not a Columbia student. Does anyone have any questions so far?